kuvattavana tosiaan ammattivalokuvaa ja paikalla, niin kannattaa tämä nyt hyödyntää. Jos tulee mitään kysyttävää, me ollaan täällä sitä varten, tulkaa vetäsemään ihasta ja pidetään oikein ikimuistoinen päivä. Kelistä huolimatta nautitaan. Kiitos.
Well, hello and welcome back to Finland and just the forests just outside the city of Kouvola, which is where we are hosting rounds 3 and 4 of the 2020 FIA World Rallycross Championship, and you're very welcome to join us. There's a flying Finn. They've managed to get that car fixed up because that was on its roof in qualifying 2. So this is qualifying 3. Thanks for joining us. During this session we will whittle down the 19 cars and drivers down to the top 12 that will go through to the semi-finals and then the final this afternoon. So this is the crucial sharp end of the action. If you've just joined us, if you've missed any of the action earlier today, where have you been? But we will bring you up to speed with what's happened so far. But generally, please comment on the stream where you're watching from and who you're rooting for. It's an amazing circuit. The cars are just gathering in the pre-grid. Of course, we haven't got any spectators here, which is a real shame. But hopefully, you're feeling the experience from where you are. So, Andrew Coley has joined me here. Andrew. The big story, I guess, from qualifying 2, we're about to watch the recap of that, but is that he did not win a session. He had a clean sweep yesterday, but Johann Kristoffersson had a problem.
So a problem with the car, basically. We'd assumed it was electrical. I've spoken to Johan. You know, they're not quite sure whether it's solved or not. He drove basically using low RPM after that, which made it easier, let's say. And he did say that he took some time out of extra in the last sector and was all pleased with himself. That could having a problem. He's all smiles. But genuinely, they're not quite sure whether, well, he's here himself, not quite sure whether or not they've got it sorted. So we'll see. Johan?
Well, let's ask him.
It's all fine.
Look, Coley, I'll send you up to the commentary booth if that's all right.
Sure,
Thanks for the insights.
I hope it's all right.
So, Johan, we can actually hear from you. What happened in qualifying 2?
Well, we are not 100% sure. We had some misfiring, so seems like there's something on the fuel line, fuel pressure, something like that. We are not 100% sure if it's the pump or if it's an electrical problem, or we've changed a bunch of stuff and we went to refuel, and I tried to load up the car against the brakes in the paddock area, still below 20 kph, so a bit tricky to know, but we hope that it's all right. And yeah, let's see. We are a bit lucky that it's raining, because if it would have stayed dry, track conditions would have been in a huge favor for the last guys. But now I think maybe it's actually even the opposite, that it's going to go slower and slower. So if I have a good start and Niklas doesn't win the qualifying 3, we are TQ. So we'll see.
Now, I guess because you had your own problems to contend with, you didn't see just how dramatic qualifying 2 was, did you? You didn't get to
everything. I had a perfect view of everything going on behind them. So yeah, but it's gonna be like that when it's raining. Everyone is trying to, you know, to go faster when the conditions was in that, you know, that we knew that it's gonna be faster and faster. So everyone knew that we need to have a clear and good race, and track position was important. So. I could see there was some fighting for track position, but yeah, let's see. I just hope to be able to, even if I come out P2 or 3, that we can have a clear race, and you know, I think track conditions will be in our favor. So I think if the guys are switched on, which I believe they are, we can take advantage.
Well, like the man said, Q2 was dramatic. We had overtakes, we had rolls, we had wheels flying off, and if you missed it, watch it now.
It was reverse grid for Q2, meaning the fastest cars went first on what was potentially going to be a drying session. Juha Rukkanen out in front. Great hole shot for him ahead of Mattias Ekström. You could see just how slippery the gravel sections were while the tarmac was definitely drying. Bakkerud following him as Ekström went into the Joker, coming out just in front of Timmy Hansen. Hansen and Bakkerud got together at the end of the straight. Massive save by Timmy Hansen. They were not happy about that. Two cars coming together again after the race for words. It was Ekström who pipped Ryktönen to the flag. Race 2. Amazing start by Larsson from slot number 4, but Gronholm equal to it on the inside. Larsson brave, sideways from him and Niklas in the background. You can see Kevin Hansen getting past Anton Mark, who had to drop down into 5th place. Larsson and Gronholm, nose to tail. It was a tiny mistake from Larsson to let Gronholm through prior to that last corner. And then this amazing, at the end of the straight, flat out sideways through. Gronholm looking like he was on top of the Hyundai again. He was chucking it around, could get him to do anything he wanted. And it was Gronholm who took the flag with a fantastic time. Kevin Hansen on the outside, hooking up a fantastic start here for Uncorrupted. Cuts across the pack, alongside Timosjanov, and just about squeezing the whole shot. Liam Doran in P3, managing to benefit a little bit later in the race. You can see Timo there making the mistake, and that slotted him up the inside. So now Liam was able to put chase on. When he was out front, all looked like it was going okay, and the front right wheel came off. He'd hooked a curb at the last corner, but not very happy. Timosjanov taking the Joker to come out in front of Kaliokoski. A win for the Russian. Still more drama to come though in this session. Last race, Atromata moving across, squeezing Taras Karai, turns in, lights the throttle up in a desperate attempt to hold on to it, and then rolls in the gravel trap. Soft roll, he was okay. There it is from the outside. Car just digs in and goes over. He thought the race might be stopped, but he was off the racing line, and that allowed Tamas Karai to continue his battle with Jani Parssinen. Parssinen coming around the outside to take the checker flag, but he hadn't jokered. 30-second penalty, the race went to Karai.
Up to the pre-grid, we saw Timmy having a word in the door of Andreas Bakkerud. Timmy, what were you saying to Andreas after Q2?
No, I was angry because he pushed me, but honestly, seeing the footage after, he was further up my inside than I could see in my mirror. So I should have left him more space there.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, good luck in this one, thank you. So let's join our commentators, Andrew Coley and Dan Rook.
Well, fair play, you can't argue with that. Timmy, I'd seen leaning in the door as I came up the stairs. Neil was going, he'd been leaning in the door of Andreas, and then Neil went to have a chat with him. And Dan, that's really proper, top sportsmanlike behaviour. Well done, Timmy. He's gone and said, fair go, you're further up. And that's that thing of what you think's happening, then when you look back at the footage afterwards. Final qualifying session from Finland, round 4 of the World Rallycross Championship. Rennie Munich, Jani Parssinen, Liam Doran and Atromata. None of these guys, I'm afraid, are going to be able to make it. Unless that, if you won the session, there's a chance. But it's wet, you never know. But I mean, you'd require other people to have issues too. What I want to see here is a good run for Liam Doran. Atromata on the outside of him, who of course has been involved in the first corner a couple of times. Dreadful start for both Liam and Atro. Jani Parssinen, look at Liam though, round the outside of Rennie Munich, and he might even get the whole shot. Yes, Liam, up the inside, Parssinen gets a little tag and ends up well off track. Liam taking the lead, super slippery conditions. Look at the mud down there in the first corner, Dan. This is nowhere near as bad as it was in 2014, but you can see where they've been out with the earth-moving machines and smoothed everything off, the track groomers, and it's super, super slippery.
Yeah, very slippery out there, isn't it? But they've been out brushing as well. You can see they've brushed the tarmac a little bit, not quite as much mud on the track. So, was that Munich with a problem? Yeah, Munich slow as well. But yeah, we could be seeing Liam here putting a storming time in, because when the rest of the guys are going around, they're going to be dragging a lot more dirt and mud onto the circuit. Liam's going to have the cleanest track.
Understeer through the last corner. He deserves a good run, doesn't he? We know that a lot of people have struggled from Sweden to here. Some people still struggling here in Finland. At least now the teams have got a little bit of a break. 3 weeks to Latvia. Oh, he glances the barrier on the inside. Careful, Liam. over the crest now, and then watch him on the brakes here. So he's early on the brakes. You can see the nose of the car dives down towards the gravel and the tar. Great throttle control through there.
Yeah, very patient, wasn't it? Using a little bit of throttle with the rotation of the car, but then easing back off it so it doesn't get as much wheel spin.
Look at that, one lap in, and you can see already he struggled with understeer through the triple apex, not this lap. So he's felt his way round. This next corner, the last corner, he struggled on the first lap. Wait for it. And this time he nails it. Dan, that's one lap it's taken him to figure the conditions.
Yeah, you're just learning as you go around, aren't you? And using a bit more curb this time around as well, helping with the rotation of the car. He's pulled miles away there, hasn't he?
Atro Marta is in P2, passing a long way back. We'll wait and see if there's any investigation for the first corners. I mean, I'd like to have another look. Atro Marta sticks it in the wall on the outside of turn 2. Easily done. Tanner Fowles said to me last night that you're almost a passenger when it's properly wet from turn 1 to turn 2, and he said the grip comes back just when you need it to brake. So if you miss that braking point, you're in the wall.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so easy to do it like that, isn't it?
Tanner not here, in case you're wondering. Drop me a message. He hasn't flown over just to quickly check who's going to win for the first time since he won here in 2014. For me, that performance by Faust was one of the outstanding, what do you want to call it, sort of random entry...
Wildcards.
Yeah, wildcard, that's what we used to call them, isn't it? A wildcard entry. Tanner, for a long time, was the only true wildcard winner for me, but I have to say, I think you have to add Sébastien Eriksson to that list last year with the win in Höljes.
Yeah,
drivers who are not doing whole seasons and can win around in the World Championship, that's a proper wildcard for me. And Tanner and Sébastien are there. So Tanner, though, back in the first gear of the World Rallycross Championship, still the only American to win a round of World RX. Went on, of course, to win the ARX Championship. Factory Volkswagen driver for a long time. Of course, he was here actually with the VW Polo, which was being run by Markland. Liam Doran through the last right-hander, takes a checkered flag this time. 3:17.1. This morning's session was... Who won this morning's session? Kristoffersson was a 3:18.1, so that's a second quicker than Kristoffersson went this morning. But, Dan, to me, these conditions, although it's wetter, this is probably better.
Yeah, because now your wet tyres are going to be working because there's water to actually dispense instead of just driving on top of all the sludge.
Conditions likely to get slower through the session, we think, and the fast guys are going last. It's raining harder. Well, if it rains harder, Dan, it could go either way. Liam Doran rolling back towards the paddock. He was I thought it was pretty relaxed, all things considered, when Neil spoke to him after his shocker in Q2. Q3, a bit of revenge for Liam. 3:17.1. Quick time. It actually might be the quickest time of... No, Q2, of course, was dry. Quickest wet time so far for Liam. Marta, Parsonen and Munich with DNFs. Okay, start. Liam, absolutely too much wheel spin, isn't it? Marta looks like he's bogged. Liam looks like too much wheel spin.
Yeah, but then, of course, he's further back the grid, but somehow he just manages to carry so much more speed through the corner.
Yeah.
And went around the outside of Munich and then used the inside of Parsonen to bounce him back into the track.
Well, it worked for him, didn't it? Oh, to be fair, Munich looked like he had a problem there, and Parsonen was already fully sideways. So as Parsonen's car came back on the pendulum effect with the weight, he kind of collected the side of Liam. So, there you go. You got to, look at Kevin Hansen yesterday, was it? You said kiss from Lady Luck. I think Liam had one there, and he deserves one.
Yeah,
he does deserve one.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Atro Marta a kiss from the mud bank instead. Liam Doran sees a checker flag, and second time I think this season, so it's better, but he'd have to have a win in the session to make the semis.
Liam, it must be a big relief to get a good race result.
I can't hear you. Turn this off.
Just talk.
So Liam can't quite hear Neil as he's here. I think it's the first time Liam's had an interview this year, so he's probably forgotten that because of the 2 metre thing, we just asked the drivers, just tell us about your race. He's probably wondering what's happened.
That's how it was. Liam, it must be a big relief to get a good race result, clean race.
He's going yet? I can't hear anything.
Just tell us how the race was.
Ah. Can I take my I haven't got a mask. Can I take it off?
You want to fight?
me to go now or not? Ready? Yeah, so better late than never, I guess, is the only way to explain that. It was a really clean run. There's no denying that the car and maybe even myself have got the pace to perform, but we just haven't been able to perform together as a pair. I'm actually quite happy with that. There was no real mistakes. The course is really slippery. We had a much better setup than we had in Q1 and maybe didn't take as much risk with going with the slicks. Maybe this wet's a safer option, but I think it might stand actually. In Q1, the track evolution went backwards, like it devolved. So I was first car out, lost a bit of time in the first corner, but had a clean track after that, and so it looks like it's raining as well now, so maybe, just maybe, luck's gone my way.
Thanks, Liam.
That, if you're wondering, is the real Liam Doran. Bless him. No, he didn't know whether we were live or not. He can't hear. Can I take it off if I've got to wear a mask? I'll leave it on. Are you live? Like, yeah, that's Liam. Like, I love it. Just fully chilled out because he thinks he's waiting for the interview because normally he could hear Neil and he couldn't. But there you go. Can Liam hold on for a session win? Would it be the miracle and put him through to the semis? The rain continues to fall here in Kouvola. Q3 race 2. Some quick people in this one. Andreas Bakkerud, Tamas Karai, Timmy Hansen, Johann Kristoffersson and Johan Kristoffersson. They are all on wet weather tyres. Saw Johan down in the grid just a few moments ago and he was saying that if he wins the session and Niklas doesn't, he thinks it'll be enough, that he might be able to take the TQ back. Do you? I think you need to settle for a front row start. There's no settling for Johan. Oh, an amazing reaction time from him. Thought he'd have to dig the clutch again, but he gets away this time. Kristoffersson shuts the door on Bakkerud. Timmy Hansen going to slide into P3. Trying to go around the outside is Schiestreit on Karai, but it's Kristoffersson, Bakkerud and Timmy Hansen now who have to feel their way into these treacherous grip levels.
It's really wet out there compared to just a few moments ago. I think Liam almost bought himself a bit of a breather for himself out front with the delayed interview, because look how wet the track is now. It's so much wetter.
You wouldn't put that past Kristoffersson, would you, having to think about it holding up an interview, but you know, Liam just wasn't aware. He hasn't even done that on purpose. But Dan, the wetter weather might mean that the track is cleaner again. You remember what they were saying earlier? Is it wet enough to wipe the slick off, or is it going to be slow? We'll get the lap times for you as they come in.
Yeah, so that little bit of wet weather is you can actually make the wet tyres work rather than having to slide across the top of the mud and it will get clumped up.
Yeah, so it's have they, you know, can they suck into the water? Can they do the job they're supposed to do? Disperse the water out of the way? Does the water clean? But look, I mean, in sections of time like this, to me, there's maybe more grip in there than was before. The cars look like they're turning in, but the clock will be what will tell us. Liam 46.5 was his best. Kristoffersson was a 47.4 on that first lap.
Yeah, so just from the opening lap, Kristoffersson is, he's within a second, only just. But we'll be able to see on this time around as he comes across the line in a couple of corners' time where the pace is at.
You can hear the Volkswagen hissing when he's off throttle, almost like it's dumping the pressure from the anti-lag so it's not pushing in the corner. I don't know that, but 46.0, he goes half a second quicker than Doran, so Kristoffersson is on that pace. 46.9 for Andreas Bakkerud, 48.2 for Timmy Hansen. Timmy jokering and hoping that he can make up the time on Bakkerud and Kristoffersson in front of him. Meanwhile, Karai and Schiestreit having a battle of their own at the back, but they're a long way off and they both jokered already. Liam get the miracle, like a lot of points, a huge number of points here compared to everyone else would be good. The trouble is the top 12 have all been pretty consistent, Dan.
Yeah, so there's a big gap back to Liam in the points, isn't there? So
yeah,
he
long
would need...
way. It's a miracle that he needs here. Look, there's the guy in P12 is Markland on 68, Liam is in P17 on 55. He's 13 points adrift, but don't forget you get an extra 5 if you win the session, an extra 3 over the guy in third. So, you know, there's 8 points to be grabbed there. It just depends what's going to happen. Is the track going to get much slower? Kristoffersson, we've lost our lap times again up in commentary, so we can't tell you how quickly Kristoffersson is going. Dan trying to fire it up now online. Kristoffersson through the long right-hander. That's the corner that Tanner Faust said he was declutching through the whole thing to try and get the car to turn in. That, of course, was back in 2014, so anti-lag's come a long way since then. I say Kristoffersson's car just doesn't look like it pushes in the same way. It's a mega piece of kit, isn't it? What a wicked machine that Polo is. Kristoffersson coming round through the right-hander. Doran's target time is at 3:17.1. Oh, he smashed it. He's absolutely destroyed it. Kristoffersson with a 311.7, and then Bakkerud, I think, was 4 seconds off, so should also be in front. I say apologies, our timing screen's down. We've got the same graphics you guys have got at home. Pouring with rain in Kouvola, and the conditions might be going the other way now. Wetter might be better. Kristoffersson, fastest so far, 311.7. Bakkerud, 315.8. Then Timmy Hansen, 316.3. Schischrit and Tamas Karai. Liam Doran is in 4th place, so I think probably he needed the session win, Dan, if he was going to make it through to the semis.
Yeah, 100%. He's just not quite had the grip level, has he?
Off the start, look, almost a jump start by Johan. Surely he hasn't got it that great. From a distance, I thought it was close.
Yeah, I was thinking, was that a jump start then? But no,
so was I. Yeah, in the actual race, I thought he jumped it. He's never jumped it. Johan wouldn't jump it. But would he risk it for a biscuit? Because he did, you know, it was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very good. But yeah, he's obviously nailed it. I didn't quite catch the reaction times. Maybe we'll see that on our results sheets later on.
Full commitment, but you can see the grip levels are up from last time when you saw the cars coming through. They're really sideways, just skating, trying to find the grip. Whereas this time, they just look super smooth and tidy as they come through that right-hander onto the straight, using those wet weather tyres to hammer the horsepower down onto the road. It's a brilliant drive by Kristoffersson trying to steal the TQ.
Johan, a great start, and the conditions are very slippery, it looks like.
Yeah, was a good hit for me. Let's say the reaction in the start was very good. I leave it by that.
Thank you.
Yeah, he guessed it, no question about it. The reaction, when he says that and he's laughing as he drives away, Dan, come on.
Yeah, he's fully just winged that, hasn't he?
He's got away with that. That's a massive get out of jail free card, but that's when you're flying like he is, it's that thing where the luck goes with you and he knows. That was nearly a double joker for Kristoffersson, and definitely not the TQ, and it might end up being the TQ. All the settings being adjusted for these pre-launches now. Brakes on, handbrake on, load the car up, launch. Talking to Timmy earlier, he was saying they're launching everywhere now in 2nd gear. Last year they were using 1st to 5th. This year they're always using 2nd to 6th. Changing spec of the gearbox, changing spec of the engine, suspension. It's just constant little things trying to make the car better in little places.
I mean, the 2nd gear start does give you a little bit of advantage. Obviously, you don't get the initial bite, but you gain time where people who start in 1st gear are changing gear. So you get the sort of 2nd phase of the acceleration. You get a little bit of a small advantage. We're not talking much. You know, these cars are flat shift mechanical gearboxes, but
also in the rain, of course, less wheel spin in theory. But then you've got to go through your settings. You need to know the settings range for 1st and then the settings range for 2nd. Yeah, the RPM for 1st would be a lot lower in the wet, wouldn't it, for 2nd?
Yeah, because in 2nd, obviously, you've still got to try and get the car away from the line.
Anton's on the white lines. I reckon they might move that over. Yeah, they're going to ask him to move it over, so they're asking Anton to move the car over. Anton is just trying to get out of the groove there.
Yeah, so where we've been having some dry starts, there's rubber laid down on the track, but water on top of rubber is slippery, so trying to get off of the line.
So the guy who was kneeling down there was drying off the sensor for the bumper, which is what gives them the green lights. He's on the floor there, so it's like a proximity sensor, and obviously if it's covered in rain, they can't get the car right up to the jump start sensor. You're going to need a hell of a start to beat that one from Kristoffersson. 2 races left to go in qualifying here from Kouvola. Q3, race 3. Juha Rykkönen on the inside, then Robin Larsson, Kevin Abbring, Timo Scheider and Anton Markland. Wet weather's all the way across the grid. Track faster, track slower, we'll figure it out. Rykkönen will want a great start on the inside. He'll need one if he's going to beat Larsson, because Larsson's brave in the first corner, but it can go either way in the wet. Larsson almost creeping there, clutch kick for Scheider and Abbring. Look at that, absolutely incredible start from Rykkönen and Larsson. Rykkönen giving no room. Larsson going to take a trip through the gravel trap like Höljes all over again. Scheider up the inside, terrible start. How did he keep it out the wall? Just tax Rykkönen, absolutely nowhere for Scheider. Scheider to go. He did amazingly there, not to hit the wall and not to take Rukkanen out.
Yeah, that was very last minute direction change, and you can't change direction that quick when you're skating along the top of the mud. So small miracle there for Scheider, and luckily he didn't take Rukkanen out when he came back across.
Yeah, small miracle for both of them, wasn't it? So Scheider, absolutely dreadful start. It's a bit like Timmy earlier on today, but in turn one, when it gets exciting, Rukkanen not giving way to Larsen, leans on him in the corner. They both run out into the dirt. Larsen goes jokerless, having lost that time. Abraham has gone in with him. Markland gets past. It worked out. It worked out for Scheider.
Yeah, and I think for Rukkanen as well, given that he's the new kid on the block, he has to show his elbows, doesn't he? Otherwise, he'll get a bit bullied later on in the weekend. So.
Or if he comes back later on in life, if he comes back to the championship, you've got to be one of those guys, haven't you, that when you look in the mirror, you go, oh no, he'll have a go. We've said it before, it's important, and he really has got stuck in a very fair way. I've seen so few mistakes from Rukkanen. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, he is a very, very consistent driver, isn't he? He sort of ran under the radar a little bit through the day yesterday until the semi-finals, when we realised he was starting on the front row. And since then, he's been out front, hasn't he? Look, clean car.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. 49.0 his last lap. Kristoffersson's best was a 45, but that was a bit of an untidy one. This time it's a 47.7. They're nowhere near the times of the quick guys. So Bakkerud, to be fair, even Doran, they're not on the pace of Doran. So Doran in that first race, Dan, maybe the conditions going back the other way. Unless you're out there doing laps, we can't really tell. You know, the first race was kind of clean, then it got a bit wetter, and maybe that was, but now we're getting dirt dragged on. We can't tell from here, can we?
No, not at all. I mean, we're only seeing the same images as you, and we can see the colour of the spray that comes off the cars, but yeah, you can tell that there's a lot of mud now been dragged on. I think it's probably a little bit wetter as well in the circuit. You can see, look, mud flying off the back, even there the majority of the way around that tarmac section, and you can see there's a brown line. That's the longest,
this point here is the furthest you could be from a previous section of gravel, and the whole thing is covered in dirt. 48.0, they're getting it nowhere near Kristoffersson, and that's going to mean that Gronholm's not going to be able to either in the last race, I think, anyway. Maybe they'll prove us wrong. You've got Gronholm, Kevin Hansen, Ekström in the last race as well.
How does Kristoffersson do it?
I don't know.
He's just somehow again managed to get the peak track condition, and he was 14th in the session before.
Yeah, and an amazing start. But, you know, you just got to keep operating at that level, haven't you? Then when you have the little problems, the little mistakes, it doesn't matter quite so much. Rukkanen into the joker with Scheider. 3:11.7 is Kristoffersson's time, and it's gone already. They're going to be seconds away from that. Doran is on a 3:17.1. That's more like what these guys are looking at. They're not going to get that either. Rukkanen goes P5, so he's behind Kristoffersson, Bakkerud, Hansen and Doran. Anti-lag off, pulse is back down. You can hear the RPM drop as they roll down to the end of the straight. Rukkanen takes it from Scheider and Larsen. Markland, then Kevin Abring. Markland not putting in the performances we've seen in Höljes here. But as you can see, Liam's still up in P4. I think it's going to be tight for him to get to the semis. You never know. One race left to go. Look how terrible that start was for the three on the outside. But watch Scheider now as these two get into each other.
Yeah, he even struggled to get it turned in, didn't he, from the outside, and then now skating on the brakes. I don't know if he touched the barrier or not.
I know he touched Rukkanen, but not the barrier for me. But holding out the barrier was impressive enough. There was nothing he could do about Rukkanen. Okay, it didn't affect either of them, but it was cool, wasn't it?
Threading the needle to its best.
Not quite as well as Kevin Hansen threaded it yesterday. That was properly threading it, wasn't it? But it was definitely a bit of wall riding going on. Would have been a nose grind through there. Completely different attitude from the cars in these full wet conditions than it is in the greasy, slippery conditions we saw earlier on today in Q1. Rukkanen takes it. The time is only good enough for P5. I wonder how slippery it is out there.
Juha, the front of the car is clean, which tells a story. How was it?
Track is very, very slippery, and not my best try, but yes, it's okay.
Thank you, Kiitos.
Very, very slippery. He said it wasn't his best, but I didn't spot too many mistakes down. I think he's made the best of a bad situation there, and that's probably the best time he could have got. Maybe a half second quicker. I don't think he would have gone quicker than the guys went in race 2.
No way. Not with that size of gap. It's certainly the track is an element in that.
For Gronholm then, this is tough now. Probably the spotters are going to be on the radio saying, look, the lap time isn't there. You're not going to win the session, but you've got to do your best to stay as high up as you can. Yeah, maybe not to meet Kristoffersson until the final. Do you want that P2? Do you go up against him in the semi and see if you can beat? If you beat him in the semi, put him back a row in the final, maybe that's an even better way to try and beat him.
Well, yeah, potentially, but it's going to be hard to play the tactics out for that, isn't it? And there's no guarantee you will beat him in the semi-final.
No, it depends on everybody else, doesn't it? At the minute, it's Niklas Gronholm on TQ from Kevin Hansen, Mattias Ekström, and then Kristoffersson in 4th. So all 3 guys that are ahead of him are in this last race. If the previous one's anything to go by, it's going to be more slippery. So I think Kristoffersson here is looking likely to steal the TQ back from P4. Behind then, Rutken and Timmy Hansen are in P5 and P6, and they're... Well, Hansen's ahead of Rutkanen. Possible to work it out. Doran was way down in P17. I don't know, you never know. When so many quick guys are not having a good session, you just never know. But I think it's a long shot for Liam. But this is all about who's going to get the TQ. It's the final race of qualifying from Finland, round 4 of the FIA World Rallycross Championship from Kouvola. Niklas Gronholm is in the TQ spot as he goes into his last race, but the track conditions are getting worse. Kevin Hansen, Timo Scheider, Mattias Ekström and Jari Kalliokoski. Wet tyres for everyone, no quarter will be given here. This race will decide who gets the TQ. And if it's not one of these guys, it's going to be Kristoffersson, who at the moment is at the top of the timesheets. Got to get that RPM right. You can't be left standing on the grid. Oh, wheel spin for everyone. Kevin Hansen, I thought, got a good start, but didn't. Gronholm's away extra, maybe having to give up a place. Going to try and go around the outside of Timo Scheider, but he could get hung out here by the train. Timo is inside Mattias. Timo now doing a Scheider, backing it in towards the wall. Mattias slots in and shuts the door on Kalliokoski behind. Mattias running it up the barriers, so close, so accurate. Gronholm's out front. If he can do it, he's got the perfect conditions to do it in terms of track position, Dan, but in terms of the conditions on the surface, I think it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be game over for him, isn't it? Now it's just a case of damaged limitations to try and make the best of the bad situation, try and beat the guys that were in the session before him. I'd imagine the conditions are probably going to be similar to him, to those guys in this case.
Joker lap for Ekström and Kalliokoski. They've gone early in the hopes they can come back up to them. So Gronholm's first lap of 47.3, not going to be enough, Dan, is he? Might get Rutkanen from the looks of things just based on that first lap, but you know, they've got a tip-tight round for 4 laps. Gronholm will be gutted, won't he? This could have been a TQ, but Kristoffersson's fought back.
Yeah, well, such a gamble with the weather as well, isn't it? You can't predict what's going to happen, and of course the fastest guys have ended up being the biggest losers.
Ekström sliding the Audi around. He is the leader of those who've joked, and he's only 2.1 from Timo Scheider. You can see his visual. Timo Scheider goes now, and it was down to 1.3. Look, 1.3 was the gap as Ekström comes around the outside, and he's going to have more speed on the exit. He's easily got him. So 1.3, I reckon 1.2 even might be. What do you think?
Yeah, because you're going to have the inside line then, aren't you, for the next corner, so you can shut the door on anyone on standard.
Look at Ekström feathering the brake on the way in. Lovely rear shot there of the run into the second corner. You could just see him balancing the car with his left foot on the brake, desperately trying to get it to rotate. Gronholm perfectly round that barrier. I'm really impressed with Gronholm's driving again today. This is the Gronholm from last year. This is him with the car under him, wet or dry. Yes, he's not going to be able to set the lap times that we saw from Kristoffersson in the earlier race, but Gronholm's back on it, Dan.
Yeah, he looks very, very comfortable in the car, doesn't he? He's at one with it. It's just such a shame about the weather.
Ekström trying to get Kevin Hansen. Kevin might get some understeer on the exit here, and Ekström's going to try and carry the speed on to the straight. Lovely move by Mattias Ekström. Kevin can't do anything about that. Any other time today, you'd have been able to shut the door, but Kevin wasn't able to because of the conditions.
No, just couldn't light the throttle up out of the corner or stop the car on the apex there. Just shows the fine line that everybody's driving on out there at the moment.
Mattias Ekström, 4.6 on the back of Niklas Gronholm. They're on the last lap. Gronholm's going to joke it out. This has been a brilliant drive by Niklas. So patient on the throttle. The time was already gone in the previous race for this, so I think this is a brilliant drive. Look at Gronholm in front of Ekström by some margin. Not going to be enough to take the session, but a fantastic performance by Niklas Gronholm in such wet weather. 3:16.5 goes fourth, so he is ahead of Doran. Drops Liam down into 5th place. Ekström will drop in behind those, so 5th place for Liam in this one. Probably not going to be enough to stick him in the semis, but a sign of what a good drive it was by him, but an excellent drive by Gronholm and by Ekström too, fighting his way through from a not great start. Kevin Hansen, Timo Scheider and Jiri Kalliokoski. That's where they go in the session, so it's Kristoffersson, Bakkerud and Timmy Hansen ahead of Niklas Gronholm. Ekström into 6th. Loads of wheel spin for everyone. You know, nobody clearly, obviously once they got away from the line, then it went the way of Gronholm. Ekström here, this is the danger. I think that's what Larson was saying earlier about you could just get stuck out in the train and you're gone.
Yeah, he was a bit optimistic there of trying to go around the outside, but it's such a risk now as well because of the dirt on the windscreen as well. Like, look how the visibility is affected compared to Gronholm out front to these guys in behind. Somehow Ekström hasn't got any on his windscreen, no.
I guess, well, I was going to say early joker, but he still sat behind, didn't he, in the dirt and filth over the back section. This was the move on Kevin. Look, Kevin, although he tries to park it at the apex and he rolls off the throttle for longer to keep the door shut, all tactics is perfectly fair to use, but Ekström got him. But great drive, Gronholm.
Niklas, so close to being top qualifier, but you've got to be happy with that race.
I didn't hear what you said, but I had a clean run and good start for once, so I could do my own driving, and it's really slippery out there. You need to be really careful to not do mistakes, but yeah, now it was quite fun.
A word in Finnish for your fans in Finland.
Nyt oli hyvä erä, että hyvä lähtö ja sai ajaa omaa ajoa ja siitä se lähtee, että saa ajaa puhtaasti eikä ole rapa tuossa tuulilasissa, niin nyt oli ihan hauskaa vaikka sataakin.
I was going to say the same, thank you.
Qualifying over here in Finland for round 4 of the FIA World Rallycross Championship. This is how the drivers stand. Johann Kristoffersson takes the TQ again from Niklas Gronholm. Conditions went his way after a problem in Q2, though. He's won 2 out of the 3 sessions, and it is hard-earned. Gronholm P2, Ekström P3, Timmy Hansen P4. So it's Gronholm versus Hansen in Semi 2, but it's Kristoffersson versus Ekström in Semi 1. Ekström's going to have to try and win that battle, put Johan Bakkerud in the final. Bakkerud is 5th, Kevin Hansen 6th, Johan Kristoffersson in 7th place. Scheider is through in 8th. Then it's Larson, Timo Scheider, Anton Markland and Jiri Kalliokoski. Liam Doran, look, up just a couple of points away from making it to the semis with a great drive. Kevin Abbring too, a nod to him for a good performance with Uncorrupted, having not been in the car for a long time. Just the semi-finals and the final to come here. Dan, conditions, it's really wet now. I don't know if it's going to be dried up for later on, but all to play for with those front rows in the semis.
Yeah, of course, those front rows with the extra rubber on as well, so we could see the rows further back being a bit grippier, but at least now we're not racing for times, we're racing for position on track, so it's going to be the same for everybody in those situations.
Can't wait.
Yeah, you can tell why the forest and the countryside here around Kouvola are so lush and green. It's because it is raining a lot. My notes have turned into papier-mâché, but luckily I can go inside now and try and get dry. Thanks very much for watching. That is qualifying complete in Finland. Now we know who will be in the semi-finals. Now you can watch your semi-finals where you would normally watch them, either your national broadcaster or online on the live stream. But thank you very much from all of the TV team here for being with us for the live streams. We will see you for the semi-finals at 3 o'clock local time. Thank you.